Hey, what's up? It's Comic 95, the Savior, and for this video, we're at it again, you guys. I want to do a somewhat of, I won't really say a deep dive, but just talk about how pretty much everything that I say on my channel, it just comes to pass. Like, I won't say comes to pass, but every time that I make a comment about something that people get angry about and disagree over, something crazy happens in the media in Japan, whether that be on X, aka Twitter, or on, YouTube, something like that, or on the news. And it just proves exactly what I'm saying. Like, the jokes write themselves, the facts write themselves, and this goes back into a recent video that I posted in which I talked about the desire to humble black women. And I tied into that video talking about the negative portrayal of black women. And interesting that this time I didn't seem to really get any pushback. But it's really funny how when I made a video specifically talking about why Asian men don't like black women, people got really angry. Granted, yeah, I get it, the title. This one is more in defense of you. But if you listen to the video, I literally dissected and explained it's not a matter of you necessarily being a bad person. The issue is the stereotype of you. This is the portrayal that you have. And white and Asian people alike will point to the fact that, oh, well, this is all we see, so it's the truth. I've lived around and I see you on TV, this, that, and the other. But it's very interesting that people don't walk away from Asia feeling the same way. If you personally live in Japan, you know damn well the average Japanese woman that you see is very basic looking to ugly. You're not looking at beautiful women every single day or all day long. Everyone on the train is not attractive. However, when you have a fetish, I guess everyone is. Not to mention this bias that people have, where because you've been brainwashed and only shown the most beautiful of Asian women, people assume that everyone is beautiful, even when they're confronted with somebody face to face and they're looking at the person. The assumption is you're beautiful because all you've ever seen is beauty. To put this into perspective for you, I haven't made this video yet, but I'm planning to do it. I love using the example of America's Sweethearts. It is a Netflix TV show that follows the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders in the US. Super popular show. Love it. My current favorite show. I'm really sad that I'm about to finish the second season today. I'm halfway through the last episode, so I'll be finishing it up today and then waiting for season 3. But I'll talk about this in another video. I'm getting off subject, but hear me out. We're gonna tie this all back into the same thing. If all you were to see is Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, you would think that all white women are wearing a size 0 to 2, have blonde hair, blue eyes, super beautiful, model-like. But if you actually live in the US, I can probably count on one hand the amount of women I've seen that looks even remotely like that this whole year. That's not your average white girl. Okay, now that we've used the US for an example, let's use Japan. Do you really think that the average Japanese girl looks like those K-pop, J-pop, J-drama, K-drama idols? No, they don't. But the difference between Asian and, I'm going to use black women in particular, is they have polar opposite representation. You're never going to see a fat, tan skin, small, upward curved or very slanted eyed Asian woman that has an aggressive masculine or lazy role in any sort of movie. They're not going to let her be a singer. Like, they exist, but you're not going to see them because they don't want you to see them. They don't want that representation. And I don't fault or blame them for it. I'm just explaining that because all you are seeing are stereotypes, you believe this is what they really are. And the same thing goes for cleanliness and manners. I've done whole videos talking about the gross things that Asians do, in particular the fact that hand washing is not a big thing. Just keeping it real. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. This sounds so bad, but I'm gonna make it come home. My husband even, I literally, before we got married, but especially after, I literally had to tell him, hey, look, I ain't hear no water running. Can you go back and wash your hand? Do you guys know what his job is? Yeah, that's kind of scary. And I can assure you, he's not alone in this. When I first moved to Japan, I lived in a share house full of Asians from around the world, everywhere except for Japan. Then later, the second place I lived in was a share house that had almost all Japanese girls. And what do you know? The same problem still persisted. If you're new to my channel, to give a little bit of backstory, been in Japan for 10 years, started off as a tourist, worked there, started off a tourist, went to school there, then I worked there, then I lived on my own for a while, then I got married. I've dated a ton, lived all over the country. Yeah, I have another video already going through all of that I just uploaded, I think the day before this one. So watch that one if you need the whole recap of my life. But long story short, just keeping it real, they don't wash their hands. Their mindset is, unless you take a shit, because obviously now you're dealing with poop particles or whatever in your hands, they don't feel a need to do that. And I think it's also gross that even in the US, a lot of men don't wash their hands either. That's also a common thing. But I mean, here it's way more common, and it doesn't matter what gender, men and women. Nose picking is normal. Ear digging is normal. I've even seen both young and old people, and I'm talking about, when I say young, I mean like 20s, 30s, not some like elderly, not in their right mind type of guy, just digging in their pants out in public. Like, these are the type of things that I see in Japan. But that's a whole other story. We're not going to get into that. I'm just explaining this because anytime that I've talked about this, people get really mad, go into weeboo defense mode, and try to pretend like these problems don't exist. Oh, that was a one-off person. That's not the norm. Blah, blah, blah. But then it's very interesting that if we see 1, 2, 3, God forbid, a few hundred, a few thousand of any other race of people doing something, it becomes everyone. And the dumb thing is, people don't realize, I can't think of the fallacy for it, but essentially it's a bias where you only show like a sample, a small group of something. So for example, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, right? We're going to keep it on Americans so that you guys don't get offended. If all you're seeing is that, this is your only exposure to America, what do you think? You think that every American girl is drop dead gorgeous, super hot, beautiful, athletic, thin, perfect skin, these model-like bodies. If you actually went to the US and walked down the street, do you know how rare it is to see somebody that looks like that? Forget about one person. 30 plus girls that look that way in one room? I've never seen that in my life. I would argue those girls look better than the Miss America pageant chicks that you see. But anyway, back on the subject. And notice that I specifically am talking about the white women. We're not going to get into that because that's for another video. Like I said, I'll talk about that later. But I want to reel this back into this current situation with this. I believe correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is this is some sort of like Spanish streamer on an app called Twitch, which everybody knows what Twitch is at this point, but I've never heard of this person. I don't really watch Twitch. I like normally see stuff from it because I use X and I use YouTube, and people normally like upload highlight videos typically when they're complaining about somebody from those platforms. But long story short, everybody lost their shit over this guy because of a confrontation that he had with a Japanese man. And if I can remember, I will actually put a link to this video in the comment section so that you can watch the video for yourself, because I'm not going to show it here. I also normally don't like to talk about people directly because that's not the purpose in this channel. I'm not here to argue, to fight, or to embarrass or shame anyone directly. I talk about problems as a whole in general, and I typically try to avoid directly addressing people head on, especially when I realize that the problem is not one person, but rather the collective of people. That is not my goal on this channel, to have like some sort of drama, petty, I want to like fight with you to get views and stuff. It's not my thing. But if you want to do that, hey, go ahead. Not my business. So anyway, back on subject. This guy was on the train in Japan, and it wasn't a typical train. I don't know where he was going, what city he was in, but I've been on trains like that before. In fact, it reminded me of the style of trains that you normally get on, like in the Kansai area. Kobe, Osaka, and Kyoto have trains like that. I'm sure other more countryside like places, like even Shizuoka. So like where you have it reminds me of the metro train here in the Chicago area, where you have like seats facing each other, like where it's two facing this way, two facing that way. The little 4-seater type areas, the bucket seats, instead of like the typical bench seats that you have like on the L train in Chicago or the New York City subway, etc. So anyway, back on subject. This guy's sitting there, he's streaming, and to put a few things into perspective for you, he's sitting there and appears to have been there for possibly quite some time. An elderly Japanese man on the opposite side of the train, not even sitting behind this guy, but on the left side, I think his back might have even been towards him, so it's not even like he's showing up on camera, I think. But let's say that I'm wrong, and that his face is showing up. He's facing the camera, but he's still sitting on the left, across the train from him, right? Not next to him, not right behind him. He takes it upon himself to get up because he realizes this guy is talking, possibly laughing. I didn't watch the whole stream, so I don't know what exactly is going on. But he's streaming. Let's just imagine what's going on. He's going to be loud. He's going to be talking. Going to be rude, okay? He takes it upon himself to tell this, foreign man to basically be quiet. Shut up. You're being noisy, like you're being rude, and you shouldn't be sitting here. He then takes it upon himself to get up out of his seat, go into this Spanish streamer's personal space, and he literally puts his hand, what appears to be he's trying to either grab his face, grab his hat, and what I took from it was it looked like he was trying to grab the streamer's hat and either pull it down, throw it off, hit him in the face, do something to him. In response to that, the Spanish streamer stands up and immediately pushes him. And I think he may have done it twice. I'd have to go back and watch the video. So we're going to give the Japanese man the benefit of the doubt, like how you all do, right? Let's assume that the Spanish guy pushed him not once but twice. The clip that we get to see, for those of us that did not actually watch the stream live, is just that it ends there with the man being pushed and fumbling. After that clip was posted and went viral on X, all of these Japanese accounts and foreigners were full of people complaining and talking about how this is why we need to ban foreigners, they shouldn't be allowed, oh, they're rude, look at what he did, disrespectful this, blah, 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 blah. And it just blew my mind seeing foreigners chime in and agreeing with this. And this is what I'm talking about, where it's so funny seeing white people in particular cooning, Uncle Tomming, and just doing all of this shucking and jiving for Japanese people under the disguise of, if I call out the bad people and, use the same type of derogatory, discriminatory, slur type talk to refer to them, and if I single out what nationality these people are, I'll be safe. And it's just so funny to me because it literally reminds me of like the whole divide that we have as an American, myself as a Black American, in the Black community, where a lot of us have the mindset of, well, if I just don't sag my pants, if I just don't speak with a so-called black accent, if I just don't, have dark skin, if I have these keener features, if I have, this lighter hair, these lighter eye colors, whatever, then I won't have these problems anymore. They'll accept me. But what people fail to realize is, I said this before, people in my last video, which I made that talking about the fake outrage over the Kyoto students that couldn't enjoy their field trip. People that are prejudiced, racist, etc., they will move the goalposts. They're not bothered by the fact that you're sagging your pants. Don't get me wrong, it looks stupid. I think it is stereotypical and dumb to do. But at the same time, is that really why they dislike you? Wouldn't it just be seen as a poor fashion choice? Because last time I checked, people don't hate white people because grunge exists. People don't hate them because, they get crazy exotic piercings like gauges and shit like that. Like, that doesn't make people feel any sort of way. You might feel like, oh, this person is, a degenerate. They might not have a good job. But you don't think to yourself, I hate all white people because you don't like the way that grunge looks. Or the emo goth looks. Like, nobody feels that way. But that's used as an excuse to justify racism towards Black people. That's just one of many things. I already went into the whole stereotypical behaviors, like when it comes to crime and things like that with Blacks, but this is not that video, so we're not going to talk about that topic. If you want to hear what I have to say about that, I did a whole practically 3-hour video that I posted yesterday, so you can watch that and see my breakdown of that news article about the Kyoto students. Back on subject for this. It blew my mind seeing people do that. Because you feeding in and reposting this, I know you're like, oh, you're talking about this. Hear me out. I'm talking about it in a positive way to help us. You're actually reinforcing the stereotypes they hold for foreigners. And as I said in my last video, people don't, they distinguish to a certain degree. I won't bullshit you here. But people don't distinguish to the point where it's like, oh, okay, I only dislike tourists, not all foreigners. When people say tourists, they're talking about foreigners as a whole. They don't differentiate between those who live here and those who are visiting here because they cannot tell. They cannot tell, like even myself, I've been there for a decade. I can't walk down the street and somebody's going to know, oh yeah, you're that Black girl that I've been seeing for the past 10 years. Instead, I get the same, the little snickering and tongue clicking and all the little petty old people stuff that people do. Don't get me wrong, it's not just old people, and that's a whole other story. We'll talk about that in another video. But I get met with the same racism towards tourists as a fellow, you know what I mean. I get met with the same racism that tourists, whatever, experience as a foreign resident. Because nobody gives a shit whether I live there or not. They don't care that my husband is Japanese. Now, granted, I'm not going to lie. If I'm with them, fine. Nobody's typically bold enough to say or do anything, especially when they realize he is Japanese and not some, Chinese, Korean, other foreigner himself. But that's, again, different topic. We're staying on this right now. And as for this, I get what people are trying to do, but the dumb thing is, foreigners from every country have been caught doing stupid, ignorant, embarrassing, shameful things that makes their entire nationality, race, gender, whatever you want to call it, look bad. So this dumb war of trying to call out what country's person did something is stupid. It doesn't matter whether you normally see an American do this, or whether you normally see a Canadian do this, or if you normally see someone from, I don't know, somewhere in the Middle East. Like, it does not make a difference. Bad behavior is bad behavior. And thanks to white people that have been kissing ass, now there's a huge push to actually get rid of you all, because you all keep making content in which, don't get me wrong, I'm all for teaching people rules and encouraging them to follow them, but at the same time, there's a way that you can do it without making it sound like this is a problem that is exclusive to foreigners. And I keep seeing it pushed that way, and I keep seeing stupid foreigners trying to agree with the concept of limiting and or getting rid of other foreigners. The stupid and crazy thing about this is, there has never been a large enough presence of foreigners for any sort of impact to ever happen to Japanese culture. You'll see fallacious arguments like keep Japan Japanese, which I'll make a video talking about those things later. Again, like, there's so many videos I can make on these topics because you guys just give me tons of ideas by leaving me dumb comments. But we're not going to get into that. Like I said, for this video, we're going to stay on topic with this guy. But it's like, when you do that, you're encouraging people to hate you. So the same people that you're fueling and giving this information to, thinking that because you're kissing butt and playing Uncle Tom, really all you're doing when you're cooning like that, reverse cooning if you will, that just feels so weird, being black and seeing white people do the same things that I see black people do, because they're trying their hardest to get the love and praise and attention, and they want to separate themselves and be the model minority. They don't want to be seen as the bad kind of foreigner. But the funny thing is, they fail to understand all foreigners are bad in their eyes. They don't care. And sure, they might vocalize to you differently because they understand. If they just flat out say all foreigners are bad foreigners, then that pretty much sounds racist, doesn't it? But it sounds much more reasonable if you say, we don't think they're all bad, just these people. Well, I can tell you as a black person that I've heard the same story. See, the excuse is, white people in America, the racist ones I should say in particular, they don't hate all black people. It's just the criminals. But to that I say, then why do I get treated like one when I'm not in a gang? I've never robbed, carjacked, raped, but nobody did any of those things. So why do I get the same treatment then? Oh, what's that? Can they not tell the difference? Oh, now you see what the problem is, right? See, when you stereotype and agree and treat your own people like that, and you agree with the treatment of them, and you encourage people to do this, what message do you think you're sending to the Japanese? You're encouraging them to believe that we're all like this. And instead of having a brain and defending your own people being foreigners, regardless of what country they come from, you all are too busy trying to single out what country's person is doing it, instead of trying to, handle your business in-house at home. I said this before too, and we'll get into this more later on in this video, but you cannot control the behavior of other people. Not everyone has access to the same information either. I imagine there's way less content, way less books on Japan and Japanese if you're trying to find it in Spanish versus in English. I'm not going to pretend like he had no idea what the rules are, because I'm pretty sure he knew, but that also brings me back into what I was talking about. Not everyone wants to follow the rules. People know right from wrong and will still choose to do wrong. You don't have to be told to not do something. If you're an adult and you have a brain, you know how to read the room. You understand, if everyone's quiet, maybe I should be quiet too. If everyone's talking, maybe it's okay to talk. I don't need a sign to be posted telling me that. I can just assume. Now, can you be wrong? Just because everybody's jumping off the bridge or a cliff doesn't mean that you should do it too. But typically, you can assume it might be safe to do. Maybe the jump isn't that high. Now, I'm not encouraging you to monkey see, monkey do everything, but is that not the way that we kind of live our lives when we don't know what we're doing when we're in an unfamiliar space? Not to mention, as a foreigner living in Japan, I can tell you from personal experience, Japan is actually kind of confusing. You can get on buses and trains in which people are talking, and loudly at that, and Japanese people, not foreigners. So it makes it really confusing to know, how do I know when I can and cannot talk? Also, why is it okay to talk to the person next to me, but I can't make a phone call and I can't video? And don't get me wrong, I hate when people talk on the phone on the train. I hate when people play music. I'm not okay with these things even in the US, but I will say I do understand the confusion, and I can make a video explaining how to know when it is and is not okay. But long story short, generally speaking, if you're taking the bus or train to a busier area, for example, central Tokyo, central Osaka, central Kyoto, typically it's okay to talk on these type of places. Because one, there's more tourists too, and I'm not just talking about international, domestic too. It's also really busy. You're dealing with salarymen, career women, etc. They're on the train with their colleagues, they're talking about work, people on dates, etc. And also when you're taking the late at night trains. So typically within the last 2-3 hours of trains running, between about 9 p.m. to about 1 a.m., everybody's talking. You ain't got to be quiet in those trains. Sometimes you can get on the train in the evening, like 5-6 p.m. after work, and for some reason, one person starts talking, another person feels comfortable, and the whole train got it popping on it. So again, like, it depends on what train car you're in. But generally speaking, no matter what city you're in, at some time of day, it just becomes okay to talk. But you don't want to be the person to start talking. It's hard to explain. But anyway, fine. I'm not going to play dumb with you. We're not going to bullshit here. Let's acknowledge and address the elephant in the room. Let's get back on subject. Was it wrong for him to be talking on the train and doing a stream in particular? But let's just do one thing at a time. Was the talking part wrong? Yes. You should be quiet on the train. No one wants to hear your conversation, even to the person sitting next to you. Number 2. Was it wrong to be filming and streaming? Yes, I think it's very inconsiderate. The people around you do not want to be on camera. And even worse, again, now you're both filming and you're talking. And this is live. Then the other issue is the priority seating. And this is where we have this is kind of a slippery slope conversation. I've talked about this before, and I mentioned in the last video that I made talking about the Kyoto students. But here goes the truth that a lot of people don't understand. It's not illegal for you to sit inside of the priority seating, even if you don't need the seat. Let's just put it this way. It's the same way as the handicap restroom stall. Is it illegal or wrong or bad manners and rude for you to use the stall? It technically depends. And it's funny how people never talk about this, example. I've never seen anybody actually mention this. In fact, it just crossed my mind right now while I'm talking. The purpose in the handicap restroom stall is not intended for people that are fat. It's not intended for people that happen to have children with them, etc. Although it does come in handy, because typically that is a stall that does have the, changing table, whatever. So, okay, fine. I'll take back the kid part of it, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's literally put there for people that are handicap, people that might have a broken leg, that might be in a wheelchair. It's not really made for the elderly, but if you need it, you need the bar for support, sure, you could say that it is. With that said, do people hesitate to use the handicap restroom stall? In fact, I would argue, at least in the women's restroom, that's the preferred stall to use. So, with that said, priority seating. It's right there when you get on the train. It's normally the section that if you can't find a seat anywhere else, there is one there. And if you actually look at what the rules are supposed to be, the concept is these seats are reserved for them in the event that they need to have that seat. You are asked to please relinquish your seat, but it is not mandatory that you give up your seat for someone that may be in need of it. Now, do I think you're a jerk and a horrible person if you don't? Yes. Do I think it's bad manners to not be observing what's going on the train to determine whether you should get up and give up your seat? Yes. But let's also keep it real here. Typically, if you are sitting there and there is a seat available next to you, people, whether they're pregnant, whether they're elderly, whether they have children, they would normally rather stand than sit next to a foreigner because they're prejudiced. So do you really need the seat if you're going to avoid sitting there because you don't want to sit next to me? Then forget about that. There's people that are so petty, they don't even want to sit where you were previously sitting. Because now you've ruined the seat. The air is bad. It needs to be aired out by another Japanese person to sit there first before they'll sit there. So do you see what I'm trying to say? Does the seat really matter when you wouldn't want to sit there anyway? And also, you wouldn't be able to call the police to remove me out of the seat. you'd be wasting their time. Or let me just put it this way. The police probably would because, they got called out there. They just asked you to leave. But on a legal aspect, they can't make you get out of the seat. You're not legally required to. I'm not saying that you have to do things, that you should only do things if you legally have to. But you get what I'm trying to say. It is optional. Likewise, you don't have to hold the door open for the person behind you, but is it rude to let it shut in their face? Yeah. If you see somebody that's on fire or about to be robbed, you don't have to go help them. You don't even have to call 911. You can legally walk away. Is it the right thing to do when you know you could help? No. Should you help? Yeah. But do you have to help? Hell no. And so, anyway, now that I have that out there, this man has the right to sit where he was. I don't support sitting there and filming, but this is where things get interesting to me. I saw no one in the video appearing to be unseated. I saw no one waiting to sit down in the seat that guy was sitting in. I did not see anyone asking the streamer if they can have his seat that appeared to have needed the seat. And thus that brings me back to the issue with this whole thing. Would you, as the Japanese elderly man in that video, would you be willing to tell a Japanese person to stop streaming, to stop being noisy, to get out of their seat and, leave it for somebody that needs it? Especially when nobody's there waiting for the seat. They don't do that. So if you're not willing to confront your own country's people, a fellow Japanese person, why do you feel bold enough to do it to a foreigner? If your issue is you don't want to be filmed on camera on video, why would you get up and come front and center on the camera, get in the person's face, and put your hands on them? Also, let's reverse the roles. Because I've seen way more Japanese people taking up a seat that they shouldn't have. Granted, this guy is elderly. But let's reverse the role, okay? I see people that are elderly all the time that should not be sitting in priority seating because there's people that need the seat more than they do. The elderly in Japan are so full of themselves and so total Karen and Ken mode, whatever, that they feel like being elderly makes you in need of the seat more than a pregnant person, which you could argue that that's debatable, and in need of the seat more so than a woman that has small children, in need of the seat more than somebody that has a broken limb, someone that's blind, someone that has heart issues. The assumption is, I'm old, I've been here for a long time, this seat is mine. So really, their mindset is the one that's selfish. And again, there's nobody there waiting for the seat. So really, all this says is, you are prejudiced. You wanted to go out of your way to confront this person because they were a foreigner. If you were a young Japanese man, you would have been afraid to even get in his face. You would have been afraid to say anything to him. At best, you might have been, sighing and huffing and puffing across the train, but you would not have come up to him. And to be honest, I don't even think I'd be hearing the sighing and huffing and puffing and like, he wouldn't have been doing any of that type of shit. They do it with you because they know they can get away with it. And the crazy thing is, people don't seem to understand that. And I keep saying this on my channel, and then we keep seeing it. And so now I'm like, you know what, fuck it. Let me talk about a recent example showing exactly what I'm saying. I made a video, 2-3 weeks ago now, where I talked about how the Japanese are the Karens of Japan. I highly suggest that you watch that video on my channel too, in addition to yesterday's video about the Kyoto students having their field trip ruined. Watch the video of me explaining the whole Karen attitude that they have and how they go unchecked. Japanese people are literally the Karens and Kens of Asia, and nobody calls them out for it. Everything makes them mad and irritable. They love confronting people. They love arguing with people. They love fighting people. They love complaining about everything. But again, when they do it, we get met with the fallacious argument, keep Japan Japanese. It's their country. It's Japan. They can do it. That sounds awfully similar to white people in America, right? It's their country. They can do what they want. It's justified. Keep America, America. It's almost like I've heard this before. If you don't know what a fallacy is, you're stupid. But that's okay. There's education out there for you. I might even make tomorrow's video on that specific topic. If you care to join Patreon for $10 per month, I actually shared exactly what the fallacies are that I receive on my channel constantly. And I think I listed about 5 or 6 of them that I constantly get. And that is arguably the biggest one. When people cannot argue what you're saying, they have no substance to the conversation, they know that their argument is weak, it instantly becomes either personally attacking me, or it becomes the whole, oh, well, this is Japan, keep Japan Japanese. Okay, so is what they're doing wrong? Keep Japan Japanese, it's their country, they can decide. That didn't answer the question. Is what they're doing wrong or not? Like, you see what I'm trying to say? You avoid the question. You're not actually arguing a point. You're just trying to say something that's completely left field in order to avoid having to address the real argument right there. You're making up an excuse. It would be like a child. If your child were to set a house on fire and I say, hey, what your child did is bad. They're a child. I didn't ask what their age was, because that's another conversation about how old you should be when you understand right from wrong. Your 8-year-old child burned that house down. What they did is bad. What they did isn't bad. They're a child. So are children not capable of doing bad and wrong things? Are children not capable of knowing right from wrong? Can children not be disciplined? Like, you see what I'm trying to say? Back on subject. There's this huge desire to incriminate and to stalk and just wait for foreigners to do something wrong and use that as an excuse to justify hating all. And again, as a Black American, I know this better than anyone because we experience this on a regular basis. Some of us do something wrong and are bad, and it's seen as all of us. I can assure you that the average Black person that you meet is not some drug dealer, gangbanger, rapist, this, that, the other. But if you let the news tell it to you, you let the people around you tell it to you, you would think all of us are like that. Well, Japan is becoming the exact same way. And now it's just becoming more and more clear to you. All it takes is one out of every, I don't know how many, 10,000 plus foreigners on any given day to do something wrong. And now that's an excuse to ban all of you from that activity. You can't go to Gion Street anymore because 2 people did something bad. And now all of you are horrible people. One person goes into a restaurant, can't speak Japanese, can't read Japanese. They got angry and had a bad attitude with a waiter. So now the restaurant bans all foreigners from eating there, which is very interesting because do people not go to the U.S. all the time not knowing English, and we have to deal with them in a frustrating way as cashiers or waiters and waitresses trying to figure out how to communicate with them? Don't we just pull out Google Translate on our phone or have them point to the menu? In fact, it's even easier in Japan because I would argue there's more pictures on menus there. They even have like food models of the stuff outside the restaurant. So, just find it interesting that we act like all of their problems, and this is why I said the Karen mindset, everything is so unique. They're the only place dealing with over-tourism, even although America has more of that than they do. They're the only place dealing with people that can't speak their language, and it's frustrating to, order food, with them, etc. It's like, do y'all live? I mean, I guess they do live in a bubble, thinking one, and it's really funny because people label Americans as being conceited and full of ourselves and thinking the world revolves around us. But to that I say, have you never met a Japanese person? Because that's literally how they function. Everything's about them. They think everything about their country is unique. They think all of their problems in their country are unique. They think that the whole world should accept their bad behavior in favor of, but look, we bow. But look, we say thank you. And so it's just so funny. It's funny and sad at the same time. But here's the thing. If you read any of the articles about this topic, they deliberately leave out what the man did, and they make it sound like the man just asked him, hey, can you please keep it down? You're being rude. And that this crazy Spanish guy just pushed at him and tried to harm him for him saying, please follow our Japanese rules, when that's not what happened at all. You can see it both in the video for yourself and literally just see it in the video for yourself. And allegedly, I'm not 100% sure, even the police agreed that it does appear that the Japanese man got in his face, confronted him, and started this whole altercation. Not to mention, notice how they have to skew the whole thing. Because even in that one little clip they're using to, incriminate the foreign man, everyone that I'm seeing that said they saw the full video said that the Japanese man actually came up to him multiple times. It may have scratched him, got in his face, did something to him before he finally decided, let me push you and get you out of my space so you don't touch me again. Now again, whether this happened multiple times or not is irrelevant because even in the incriminating clip that we see, we can see that the old man first made the first mistake was not minding his own business. The second mistake was, not only did he not mind his own business, he came over and got in his face to argue with him. Then the third mistake was, he attempted to put his hands on him, or at least he did. We're completely ignoring all three of those mistakes in favor of what we're pretending to be the one mistake, which is that the man reacted back and said, hey, I'm going to push you out of my face. Thank God he didn't punch him or anything, because that would have been the end of that. And it's very interesting because I don't know about you all, but I remember years ago there was a video that went viral of a foreign man that was fighting this Japanese dude on the train. And people were in favor of the Japanese guy putting his hands on him because I think the foreigner was drunk, something weird like that. But it's like, how is that justifiable? And again, we just got to bring it up and just keep it real. Can you see a Japanese man doing that to another Japanese man? No. And it's interesting because I've seen way more angry, drunk, rude, crazy Japanese men and women on trains and buses than I have ever seen a foreigner. But nobody confronts them. Nobody complains. Nobody says anything. They could be passed out, vomit, take up all three or four of the, priority seats on both sides of the train, and nobody will say anything to them. Nobody tells them to move out of the way. Nobody photographs them, posts it on X, and complains about how bad young or old Japanese. Nope. It's just everybody turns a blind eye. Everybody plays Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder. We ain't see shit. But God forbid a foreigner sits there. And it's also interesting how when you're a foreigner and you're sitting there, the assumption is you're just being rude. And it's never ignorance and you didn't know that was priority seating, or ignorance and, hey, like, I didn't realize somebody was waiting to sit here because nobody's actually standing in front of me and nobody asked me for my seat. Not to mention ignorance on the Japanese side because you don't know if they have a disability that's not visible. Just a thought. And again, this misunderstanding where people think you cannot sit there at all, that is untrue. You can sit there. The idea is that they ask if you're going to sit there, that you give up your seat if you see that somebody in need wants to sit there. But the reality is, as I said before, if you do give up your seat, oftentimes people won't take it. Not just because you're a foreigner, but also it's kind of embarrassing. Not everybody's like that. I have successfully given up my seat for Japanese people plenty of times, both in Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto. I've done it. But generally speaking, most of the time, people will not immediately sit there after you get up anyway. And also, when people see that somebody's sitting there, they just walk and find a seat elsewhere. You will also see way more Japanese people that are young and able, fake sleeping, listening to music, pretending to be in need of the seat, faking drunk, so that they can sit there and you won't bother them for being there. But do you all complain about your people doing that? Mm-mm. But God forbid you try to sit there as a foreigner. And again, it's not illegal to sit there even if somebody needs the seat. It's rude and bad to do. But people do it all the time. You're not going to get in legal trouble for being there. Nobody's going to come and ask you to get up, and if you don't do it, you're going to go to jail. Not legally, at least. So anyway, this is my thing. You can't confront somebody and hit them and play Karen, and then when you get hit back, then you get angry, and then you want to support, oh, ban all foreigners are all bad. By that standard, are all Japanese people bad then? Because I talked about this in my last video, but you all go abroad for sex tourism to Hawaii, to Los Angeles, San Francisco, India, Bali, Thailand, China, Korea, pretty much everywhere on earth. And I don't see people trying to make a ban for Japanese people. I said this in the last video, but do you all know that there was actually a Japanese man that was caught up in Canada? He was doing a study abroad there, I think, on a student visa, and he was caught going to the women's dorm and recording the girls in the shower there. Yeah. We don't even know if all of those girls were actually adults, because there are lots of, I won't say lots of times, I don't know about Canada, but in the US, there are a lot of people actually going to university who are not grown. Now, granted, I'm assuming if you're living on campus, you do have to be an adult, but you get what I'm trying to say. Can you imagine the outrage if a Canadian man went to Japan and was like filming girls in a bathhouse there? We wouldn't hear the end of it. But it got no media attention in Japan. I only found the article in English, actually. So I don't even know if they wrote about it. But it did not make the news. And if it did, it wasn't a big story because I didn't see it. So It's just really crazy to me how there's this huge double standard. They're afraid to confront their own people, but they have no problem confronting you. And unlike themselves, see, when they do something perverted, wrong, nasty, bad, they don't view all of their people as being this. But if one of you does something, God forbid, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, it's all of you. And that sounds like big numbers, right? But when you consider they're getting 56 million tourists per year, and that includes domestic too, but we're going to use their inflated numbers of 56 million, right? If you're getting that many people, and out of that many people, we're only hearing, 100, 1,000 stories per year? That's actually really good. Can you imagine if the U.S. actually published articles and wasted time on the news, showing you every little incident that foreigners did wrong in the U.S.? We don't bother with it because we understand some people don't know better. Some people don't give a shit. And that's just reality. That's a part, it comes with the territory. If you're going to be a top tourist destination, you're going to have assholes. You're going to have poor people. You're going to have uneducated people coming to your country. We deal with it all the time. We deal with it with you. People think of the Japanese as being these model-like tourists and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say that they're awful tourists. I would say that they are among some of the best. But the reality is they have bad apples too. Again, the hand washing thing. If they don't wash their hands when they come out the bathroom, I'm sorry, especially when we got the virus going around. I'm not going to lie. Look, I'm just going to keep it real. We're going to use their own stereotypes against them, right? Now, if it was one of us doing that, they'd be talking about this is how Ebola spread. But they don't view the coronavirus that way. And they'll say, oh, but that's the Chinese. Okay, but all of you all are Asian, aren't you? Well, by your standard, I'm still black. I don't have to be from Africa. I don't even know what country that started in. They don't care. You're black, so you have it. You're black, so you're proving this is how it spreads, right? Well, you're Asian, and this isn't a Japanese exclusive problem with the hand washing thing. So actually, you're just reinforcing a stereotype that I should be afraid of you all because the next pandemic might start with you. See how that's not fair and that sounds racist, right? See, it's not fair when you do it back to them, but it's okay for them to do it to you. The reality is, this whole situation would have been avoided if that old man minded his own damn business. Breathe in and breathe out. And if you really cannot stand the fact, look, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to hear this shit in Spanish, English, whatever he might have been speaking. Get your ass out of that train car, get off at the next stop, and sit in another car. Or, if you don't want to do that, you can even sometimes walk between the train cars. Nobody's holding you hostage. You can get up and you can even wait for the next train. Nobody's making you stay there. I have been out in public on buses and trains, and I've seen Japanese people live. I've watched Japanese live streamers on YouTube in train stations and on trains, and nobody says shit. People don't care. In fact, I'll be fair. I saw one live streamer where a Japanese man got mad at him for filming in the train station. That was it. And just one person. And the guy didn't follow, harass him, hit him, try to snatch his hat off, knock his camera down. Nope, none of that. He just complained and kept it moving. That's it. So see, I can be fair. I can admit, okay, I saw one case similar to this. But you see what the difference was? No hands are put on him. He kept it moving, aired his grievances, whatever you want to call it, and that was it. With us, though, they have to get right into your personal space, harass you until you stop doing whatever they want you to stop doing. It reminds me of the other video that I saw of that white guy that was like, what was he doing, singing and skateboarding or something around some shrine, and a Japanese guy got mad and got in his face, and what did he do? He snatched his board or pushed him off his board. He did something weird like that. And again, it's like, is it okay for them to put their hands on us, but we can't put our hands on them? Because last time I checked, if I were to decide that, Japanese person's breaking the rules here, so I'm going to push them, or I'm going to knock them off their bike, or snatch their bag, or smack their phone out of their hands, or hit them in the face, I would be in handcuffs and on the news. But see, when they do it, we have to be understanding. Oh, this poor old man, he had a long day at work. He was just a little frustrated. We're going to let him off. Because my question is, why is that elderly Japanese man not being charged? He got in his personal space and he put his hands on him. They have it on video. Why is he not in trouble for this? In fact, it's even crazier that the Spanish dude apologized. He tried to apologize. I think he took it down though. And so again, Your image of the Japanese, I mentioned the whole beauty thing because it goes back into the cultural manners, polite thing. You are so biased and so used to seeing them portrayed in this positive light. They're so friendly, they're so polite, they're so this, they're so that. That even when you're shown bad Karen and Ken behavior, narcissistic, argumentative, confrontational behavior by the Japanese, you are willing to turn a blind eye and completely ignore that. You don't care. You will excuse the bad behavior. Meanwhile, a foreigner can accidentally make, I'm not saying that this guy did, I don't believe he made a mistake, but I'm saying, I'll give an example. There was that post of those white women, I don't know what country they were from, but where they were sitting on the floor of that bus, and they got dragged for filth on social media. When the reality is, I don't think they knew that there was this unwritten rule that you shouldn't do that. But they don't get the benefit of the doubt that maybe they just didn't know. We don't get to consider how long they had been walking, how out of shape they may have been. We don't get to consider, well, they're elderly, so they may have had some health issues. The assumption is, you're rude, you're inconsiderate, and you should have taken a taxi then. If that same photo were to have shown an elderly Japanese group sitting on the floor, they'd be complaining about how we really need to get the young people to take the trains because look at these poor, fragile Japanese people. They're elderly. They shouldn't have to sit on the floor. But see, when it's white people doing it, you just have bad manners. Ugly American. If you don't know what that term means, because I know that a lot of you guys are young, look it up. So, just to let you know, newsflash, it does not mean you're ugly and an American. It's referring to bad behavior, a very self-centered personality mindset, and I can do this in my country, so I'm going to do it here type thing. That's what that's referring to. Look it up. You can get more detail on that. But all I'm going to say is this. What that man did was wrong and rude. See, I can be balanced. I can admit that what he did was disrespectful, rude, horrible idea considering the tensions going on between foreigners and Japanese right now. But I can also acknowledge he wasn't entirely wrong for sitting there because legally you can, and nobody appeared to have been waiting for the seat. With that said, he's in his right to sit there. Granted, as long as nobody needs the seat. But even if somebody does, you're just an asshole for not giving it up. But you don't legally have to give up your seat. But let's say that I'm wrong and you do legally have to give up your seat. Is that the way that you go about it? No. If someone's breaking the law, what are you supposed to do? Just like in the US, Japan has a very similar system where you give up some rights to gain some others. So when you see somebody doing something that's illegal and it's not an imminent, whatever threat to your existence, your property, etc., what are you supposed to do? You call the police. Is that man a police officer? No. Was he acting as a police officer should? No. Some of them do, but no, he wasn't. That's not your job. You call for help. In fact, if you don't want to call the police and you want somebody to get there sooner, you can even press the help button on the train. But you see how they don't do that? You want to know why? Because they know that that would be a silly request. They know that that would be overreacting. So, okay, if this is not affecting you, your life is not in danger, the people around you, their lives are not in danger, can we pretend like this is actually a sensible reaction to get angry, get up out of your seat, confront a person even once? But they said it was multiple times, but we're going to give the old Japanese man the benefit of the doubt, right? We're going to assume big bad Gaijin guy's in the wrong. So we're going to assume this guy only got up one time and tell him, hey, keep it down. Mind your own business. Mind your own business. Is it annoying? Yes, but we also have the invention of headphones. We have smartphones nowadays. You can read a book, you can read a newspaper, you can do anything to tune that dude out. And again, you don't want to be on camera, get off the train, wait for the next one, or walk to another train car. Move to another spot to make sure you're not on camera. Go in front of him or behind, in front of him to make sure that you're not going to be seen. See how you can solve your own problems without being, confrontational, without putting your hands on people? Because it wasn't just the putting his hands on him part, or attempting to, that was the issue. It was even the fact that he got up out of his seat to try to argue with him. You're not his father. And again, I find it really interesting how when their own people willingly break rules, not only do they ignore it, but it's understood this is a bad guy and he just doesn't care. But when you break the rules, it's not just a matter of you're a bad guy, you don't care. It's you're a bad guy, you don't care, but I'm also going to pretend like you possibly do care. So I'm going to be really rude and disrespectful to teach you the rules. But the other problem that they fail to understand is for the average person, actually, you being confrontational, you putting your hands on the person, or even like you embarrassing the person by yelling at them and correcting them, you're not encouraging them to want to follow your rules. If anything, now you're going to encourage them to want to break them. Nobody likes being told what to do as an adult, and definitely not in a way that's embarrassing, humiliating, and degrading. That's not how you give instruction. If somebody's breaking a rule or doing something wrong, you nicely ask them, hey, I understand, you're a tourist, but you're not supposed to do this, or I'd really appreciate, you didn't do this, this is disrespectful to my country, my culture, whatever the case is. But the reality is, that's not what the problem was. The problem was, this person already was fed up and didn't like you because you are a foreigner. And now, he's rubbing his hands together, Birdman style, because he caught you doing something that you're not supposed to do, that's stereotypical. So now he's going to use the stereotypical whatever incident to excuse expressing his anger towards you, his hatred towards you. And now he's going to act on it. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because I can assure you, you are not the first, last, or only person he's ever seen filming out in public. You are also not the first, last, or only person that he's seen sitting in priority seating that should not be there. You're also not the first, last, or only person that he's seen talking on the train. But again, because you are a foreigner, he's now going to act on it. He's not the only person to do this. Likewise, same thing with foreigners. I see tons of them making videos, making posts, agreeing, oh yeah, ban foreign stuff and the other. But I just ask you the same question. Do you ever confront Japanese people that you see doing this? Crickets, right? You don't. So if you're not bothered by Japanese people doing this, why does it matter what race the person is when they're doing it? I agree it makes us look bad when other foreigners do things like that. But in case you didn't realize, if you're going to help us out, you're not going to do that by clowning the person, calling out their nationality, and painting it as though we're the only ones that do this exclusively. Because that reinforces the racist message that foreigners are the problem with the country. Foreigners are the demise of Japan, which is not true. Again, I said this already several times, but the reality is bad foreigners exist everywhere. A combination of misinformation, not giving a damn, and mistakes. America has the same issue. Japan is not alone on this. We just don't talk about it like that. And also, this is not a foreigner exclusive problem. Just as there are foreigners who don't care about the rules, there are Japanese people that don't. In fact, there's Japanese people that don't care and that don't know. I will never forget when I first came to Japan and I was in Tokyo, one of my friends, he was from Osaka, and he didn't know the rule of how you're supposed to stay on the left side in Tokyo. And, Osaka, Kansai area is the right. And so when I would be walking out with him, everybody would be having to move to the other side or we'd be bumping into them. I had to finally tell him, I was like, I don't think you know this, but I had to ask, hey, why do you always walk on the right side? I'm supposed to be over there. And he was like, oh, I never noticed. And so I told him that. And I'm sure at some point he may have known, but he was so used to living in Kansai, it didn't even cross his mind that everyone around him is walking on the left side. He's the only one walking in that direction on this side. But that made too much damn sense. And so, love that friend. But he didn't know any better. Same thing with escalators. In fact, even with my husband, we went down to, went to Kyoto. It was really confusing because when you first get off the train from Tokyo to Kyoto, most people are still going to get off the train on the left side because they haven't adapted yet. But as you go further out into Kyoto, and especially Osaka, you start seeing more people stay on the right side. And so I was having to tell my husband, you got to go over to the right side. I know this is skill. I forgot. Because he's not used to being there. He's been there before, but you get what I'm trying to say. So does that mean that he's a bad person? All Tokyo people are rude and inconsiderate and they're full? No. He's just not normally in Kyoto. And the rules where he's from are different. So if we can have the grace like that with the Japanese to not categorize them as all being the same when they do stereotypical, wrong, bad, whatever things, why can't we view it the same way with foreigners? And I gave this example in my last video dealing with the US, how it's funny that when we have school shooters or any sort of major event, we ignore the race of who the shooter is, if this is a problem that white people have. Instead, the focus is on, but they're trans. But they're a Democrat. That's the problem. But we don't consider, what the issue is for why black people commit crimes, do we? It's just a racial issue, right? So if we're going to say that it's the race that's causing the crime, for black people when they join gangs and when they rob people, usual suspects, right? Why can't we say that for you all? It's not usual suspects, not for the race. We gotta blame on usual suspects for, oh, Democratic. Oh, trans. Interesting. And you see the exact same thing here in Japan. We don't acknowledge the fact that you have all of these perverts here to the point where we have to have female-only train cars, female-only housing. But we're not going to acknowledge the problem with your men. We're just going to gloss over that. Instead, let's focus on these military men. They're the problem. Raping and harming these poor, innocent Japanese women. When, I hate to say this, but this will be another video, let's be honest. Most of these cases, it sounds more like people that realize they can get a bag and some attention by lying and claiming to be victims of something that they're not victims of. Because if you listen to these stories, they sound very shady, shaky, and consensual. But that's a whole nother story. Whole nother story for a whole nother video. But all I have to say is this. If we're going to be so dumb that we can literally have video evidence of someone initiating, being the aggressor, both verbally and physically, that's so scary. It really is. So if we're going to be that blind to it, my only question to you is, when are you going to wake up? When are you going to realize you thinking that because you speak Japanese language or because you have a Japanese spouse or you're a model minority, you're a good citizen, that this is going to keep your life from being difficult? Because in case you haven't been watching the news lately and keeping up with politics in Japan, they're not viewing you as a separate entity. And the fact that you have to prove that you're not one of those guys is problematic within itself. And again, as a Black American, I know this problem too well. Because for myself, I have to prove myself. I mean, even here arguing with Black people in my comment section, one of the first things that people try to do when they disagree with something I have to say is they try to blame it on, my upbringing, my life, my dad, my mom. Oftentimes not even knowing the background to that. And sometimes they are knowing of it because I've talked about these things. But it's like, that's irrelevant to what I said. But you see what I'm trying to say? And so for me, it's like, I already know how this game goes. I know how this goes. They trick you into helping them push their agenda. They've tricked you into making all of this content, into making all of these tweets, into doing all of this stuff to try to kiss their ass. And while you're pushing and praising Japan as being so perfect and so clean and so traditional, and they really just care about these rules and they just want you to follow them, that now when they get called racist or xenophobic or anything else, they're like, no, you've got it all wrong. We're just trying to protect our country's culture. But again, my question to that is, if you are, then why don't you protect it from your own people? That's the easiest people to correct because y'all speak the same language, you were raised the same way, you literally have the same culture. It's much easier to tell a Japanese person, hey, you're breaking a rule, than it is to explain to a foreigner what rule is being broken and why it matters. So why don't you start at home? Oh, that's because that's not the reason why, right? See, the issue isn't the rule being broken. The issue is who's breaking the rule. And it's the same thing in the U.S. See, people don't really care about shootings and guns. Because see, when white people do it, we just say, oh, what's the price you gotta pay for the right to bear arms, right? R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. Oh, is it too soon? I'm so sorry. But anyway, see, now if we were to say that about Black people and having guns and gangs, people don't feel that way, right? Oh, get those guns off the street. They're dangerous thugs and criminals. Oh, so the mindset is very different when it's us. I wonder why. Is it because maybe the issue is, it's the person that's actually doing the shooting that matters to you, right? Because see, when it's one of us, we all get categorized together. We're all crazy, criminals, bad, give it to the Blacks, right? But when white people are threatening our children's education, where we can't even send kindergartners to school and feel like they're safe. We can't go shopping at the mall, at Walmart. But we don't feel like it's a racial... I mean, think about it. Serial killers, who are almost all of them white. But do we feel like the world, or our country in particular, is less safe because of white men? Do we feel a need to figure out, was it an Italian American or Irish American or a Polish? We don't do that. It's not a racial issue. Let's just say it's a man issue. Let's just say, Jeffrey Dahmer was either gay or bisexual. That must have been it. So was Gacy. He could have had any other name besides that, Gacy. But anyway, back on subject. You get what I'm trying to say. See how the goalpost gets moved? And you suckers keep falling for it. So all you're doing is you're giving them ammunition and fuel because they're like, hey, even foreigners are saying limit foreigners. Even foreigners are saying, hey, these people are bad. They're breaking the rules. You're literally about to help kick yourself out of the country. You see, they've already started changing rules for visas. They switched the business manager visa from what do you need, 5 million yen to now 30. I can't do math out. What is that, 6 times the previous amount? Which, don't get me wrong, I do believe that visa was being abused. But you see what I'm trying to say? Now, granted, this is just the start. A lot of you all cry, whine, and bitch because you don't have bachelor's degrees, and you all lie making videos talking about how you got your visa when really you sucked some dick, you rode some, you scammed the system to get your visa, and we ain't finna go into that. But y'all think it's gonna stop at the business manager visa? Mark my words. They're going to start making the requirements for all visas stricter. They're going to start requiring Japanese language ability. They might even start requiring a master's or a doctorate degree. They're going to start having age caps lowered. And I mean lowered to the sense of, like, you know how with the working holiday visa, that's only for, I think it's under the age of 30 or 30 and under. They're going to start lowering things like that, where it's like maybe only up to age 25. They're going to start changing rules. And you idiots are literally, I'm sorry, just put my hair, are contributing to that. You're helping them do that. You're encouraging it. When are you going to wake up and realize you are your own worst enemy? They're already against you. The best you can do is stand together. And again, this mindset of, well, I'm just going to support other Americans, or I'm only going to support other Australians, and it's so funny because, like, literally whenever articles posted about somebody that did something wrong, you see 2 different reactions. Tell us what race they are. What nationality were they? Or you see people in the comment section trying to guess. Oh, it must have been an American. It was an Irish person. It was this. It was British. Okay. Do you think that a Japanese person gives a shit about whether the person that did those things were British or American or Australian or Canadian? They don't give a all they see is white guy did this vandalism at a shrine. That's all they see at best. And also, for most people, while sure they can acknowledge, oh, it was a white guy that did this, what are they ultimately doing? They're not going to just say, oh, white guy did this crime. They're going to say foreigners. That is the common theme. What was it? I don't want to give that nigga no attention. That crazy black dude that was running through Japan and causing all that trouble there. That was another prime example. People kept wanting them to highlight his race, his nationality. And what did we mostly see? It wasn't a matter of hating him because he was black or where is he from, Morocco, wherever. So it wasn't a matter of his country of origin in Africa. What were people mostly saying about him? Foreigner. So what do you think is the message that people are getting? Not that he was black, not that he was African, not that he was Moroccan, wherever he was from. No, that he's non-Japanese and a foreigner. So your silly efforts of trying to be like, well, what race was he? Yeah, it's black, guys. It's black. It's okay. And also interesting too, because again, like, foreigners are playing the same game. We're going to completely ignore the fact that 99.9% of the bad touristy stuff that we actually see in the media actually comes from a mix of Chinese and white people. And we're going to hyper fixate on the, 1 to 3 black guys we see per year caught doing something bad or wrong in Japan. Do you all actually know how small of a percentage of black people that are there are? Like, not even just those that live there, but even the ones that visit Japan. But you see how it's much easier to feel good about yourself when you blame another group, not realizing that you're all in the same group. And again, as a black person, I know this all too well because we deal with it too. We feel like, well, at least it was a dark-skinned person that did that and they weren't light-skinned. Do you think the KKK gives a fuck whether you're a light or dark-skinned black person, whether you have loose curls or tight kinks? Like, they don't give a shit. They see a black person do it, it's all of us. Okay, well, let me help you out, all right? The Japanese aren't seeing it was a white person versus a black person. They're seeing it was a foreigner. Some might bother to break it down further and be like, oh, it was an American, it was a Chinese. But the reality is, even for the ones that might say that on social media, mentally, the way that they're voting and thinking and talking is, we have to get foreigners out of here. Also, this idea that, and I'll make another video on this topic, that if you just learn the language, all of your problems go away. Goal post. I'm pretty sure at one point that was an argument that was made for black people in America too. It's not a matter of learning the language. It's not a matter of dressing how they dress. And don't get me wrong, I fully support learning the language, being respectful, modest. I'm not saying to break the rules and do what the fuck you want. Don't twist my words. But I'm saying this is not the reason why they don't want you in their country. This is not the reason why they have a problem with you. They are making up excuses to justify their racism because they don't want to say, I am a racist. Thus, they move the goalposts. I mean, think about it. They went from saying foreigners are being rude, disruptive, etc., to now trying to ban you all. Like, huh? What is one person taking a photo or video of you all gonna do to change the whole entirety culture of Japan? Even the foreigners that exist in Japan, do you all know it's not even 10%? And they include mixed race people in that, which is actually kind of insulting. There aren't enough foreigners in Japan for any form of influence to ever take place. You cannot compare Japan to what's going on in Europe or even what's going on inside the United States. There's no room for any influence because, first of all, there aren't enough foreigners living there. And second of all, they don't allow you to have any form of governance over their country. You're not going to be some top politician as a foreigner. In fact, the ones that tried to be that even have Japanese citizenship, they don't want them inside that position. So they don't vote for them. You're not capable of truly influencing them on that level. But see how they're trying to evoke this fear in their people? Now again, let's just switch to races. If what they were doing was being done by white people in the US, what would we call it? We call it racism. But you all are going to say, oh no, it's not racism, it's xenophobic. Which sounds so stupid because as I made another video actually talking about this, xenophobic is a synonym for racist, is a synonym for prejudice. It is no different than cute, pretty, beautiful. There's actually no difference between those three words. And you're going to be like, that's not true. But there isn't. It is all a matter of how you choose to associate the value of those things. You can decide that someone that's prejudiced isn't racist. You can decide somebody that's cute isn't beautiful. But definition-wise, they're the same. They all mean the same thing. Just like saying, I'm good, I'm well, I'm okay. Sure, you can choose to say that okay means not that great, good means better than well, well means I'm just all right. But no, they're all the same meaning. You can decide on a personal level that good has more value than all of them. It has more weight in a positive way. But no, they all mean the same thing. And if you really, really, really want to be that technical, we can even argue there's levels to it. But okay, it's still a matter of saying you're not doing that. So we can also acknowledge that xenophobic, racist, prejudice are all ways of saying I dislike people based off of their race or nationality. What word would you use to describe somebody that doesn't like people based off of their race or nationality? That are afraid of people in the US? What word would we use? Are we going to say white people are a xenophobic thing? Because that would actually probably be what most white people are. Because in my experience, oftentimes, even when you do meet straight up racist white people, there's actually YouTube videos showing encounters like this, you actually find that a lot of their dislike for you was based on fear and ignorance because they were raised by racists. They had limited interaction with you, and many people that have not lived in America are so used to seeing what they see on TV, etc. But the reality is, this is not a Marvel movie. Most of us live in segregated neighborhoods to this day. You live in a black neighborhood or you live in a white neighborhood, and even so-called mixed neighborhoods are oftentimes still mostly black or mostly white by far. Just a small pocket of other races. With that said, most people don't spend a lot of time interacting with anybody outside of their own race, with the exception of course, like Asians and I'd argue Latinos too. But generally speaking, you live around people that look exactly like you. It is very possible to go the entirety of your life as a black person in America and have no white friends and never have dated a white person. Vice versa. With that said, okay, if all you've ever been around is white people and all you ever see is negative, stereotypical, bad representation of black people, you're not going to want to date them. You're not going to be friends with them. You're not going to want to hire them. So when you do finally encounter someone, what are you going to be? Standoffish towards them? You're going to think negative things about them. Just saying. And I'm not trying to justify racism. I'm just explaining. I get it. I get it to a certain degree. Don't support it. I think it's stupid. But I'm saying, if we can understand that for Japanese people, that they're limited interaction, then why wouldn't you say the same thing for white people then? So to me, it's a double standard. And I mean that in two different ways. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think that's unfair to white people to say that they get called racist, but Japanese people just get called xenophobic. And also that it's stupid to feel like this is a white specific thing when Asians are the majority of the world. They know that they're stereotyping you. They know that they're being racist and prejudiced towards you. They just don't want to say it. That's why they get so offended when you do. And it was really funny because white people were defending this, saying, oh, they're xenophobic, they're not racist, they're xenophobic. Well, guess what? Then when Biden called them xenophobic, what did they do? They spazzed the fuck out. It made headlines all over the news, all over Twitter. And I was like, yep, your outrage is literally proving that you're racist. Because the stuff they were saying just proved the point. But anyway, whole nother story. My point is just this. Do they not have to play by the rules? So they're allowed to put their hands on us when we break rules, when they get upset. But we can't do that to them, even if they were to come to our country. Because, like, I'm in the U.S., right? If I were to be in Hawaii and a Japanese person is, I don't know, filling up the skirt of some hula girl, do I now have permission to put my hands on him? Can I smack him? Can I knock his camera out of his hand? Can I punch him? Can I curse him out and push him? No. What happens if I do that? I will go to jail. Somebody might be like, well, she's trying to stop him from... Yeah, okay, sure, somebody might feel that way. But generally speaking, no, I'd be labeled as the bad guy. I'd be told, we understand that you meant well, but that does not give you the right to put your hands on him. You're not the police. People would also say that it was stupid for me to confront the guy and get his personal space, because what if he had a weapon? What if he was crazy enough to have punched me or hit me back? You see what I'm trying to say? It being my country doesn't allow me to just defy all logic. As an adult, you keep your hands to yourself. You don't know what someone's capable of doing. You might think that they wouldn't put their hands on you. That's exactly what happened. Because the reality is, Tato did that because he figured he would get no pushback because the guy that he was pushing was, he's streaming and he's not Japanese. And so they're so used to being pat on the back and thanked and worshipped for being so polite and clean and nice and traditional that Tato could have never imagined that, I don't know what this guy's name is, that he would do something like that. And he was shocked because he got his shit rocked. Do I agree what the guy was doing was right? No. Do I agree with him pushing him? 100%. He got in his personal space. And the funny thing is, actually, the police seem to have quietly agreed with the altercation, even though you all are pushing for it to be viewed otherwise. And in this situation, this is another scary takeaway that nobody's talked about. Thank God this interaction was recorded, because if it were not, it would be the Japanese man's words against the foreigner's words. And we know how that would have gone down. So actually, him streaming, while it might have seemed like a bad thing, and sure, that's the reason why this whole thing took place, if not for that video, it would just be his testimony against Tato's testimony. You are never going to win against a Japanese person. So you see how messed up that is? That even if you have evidence, people will treat it like it's not evidence. The only thing that Spanish dude should have been apologizing for was being rude on the train. His response in defending himself by pushing the guy back was warranted. And you see that they're trying to not even phrase it that way because they have deliberately left off the parts that make the Japanese man look like a bad guy. They're not showing how he actually started the whole thing. And even the clips that do show that he started the whole thing, they're leaving out the details. They're leaving out the, hey, did you all catch that part where his hand is literally like on his hat or something, like he's grabbing for something before he gets pushed? They don't show that. Or so they show it, but they're not zooming in, or they're not highlighting it. They're not saying it in the articles. Instead, they're phrasing it as though this innocent old man was just trying to keep Japan. Like, hey, just want you to follow the rules, son. Please don't. That's how they tried to phrase it to you. Just like with the Kyoto student story, where they tried to make it sound like these poor students are being priced out because of foreigners, when it's like, no, these greedy Japanese people that are running these restaurants, hotels, food stalls, they're being greedy because they recognize, hey, the yen is weak, white people are dumb, we're going to charge them 5 times the amount. They could easily have some sort of government tax program pay for the hotels. They could easily have the hotels be available for free for these students. They could easily reserve a floor of a hotel just to make it where these hotel rooms are just for students only. But they don't want to do that. Why? They could even offer special pricing. where Japanese students are allowed to get this discounted rate, even Japanese locals. And when I say discounted, I don't mean where they're going to charge foreigners 10 times more like how they're trying to do. I mean, you can literally keep the price the exact same for the locals and charge more for the foreigners. I don't support doing that. I made a video on that already that has not been published, but I'm saying if that's really the issue for why you got to charge more, you could. But you see, that's not what they really want to do. They want to raise the price overall because, see, think about it. Why would you rather have 300, 400 broke-ass Japanese guests in your hotel when you can have 300, 400 rich-ass white Americans in your hotel? It just wouldn't make any damn sense as a business, even if you don't like Americans. And I mentioned this in my other video, but the reality is they're going to spend more money. They're going to stay in the room longer and pay for the extension. They're going to pay for the massages. They're going to get the drinks. They're going to eat the food at the hotel. When Japanese people stay, what do? Sorry, I'm going to speak bluntly. Hey, Asians are the majority. They're going to do the stereotypical cheapskate Asian stuff. They're going to just pay for the room, nothing else. They're going to check out early. They're not going to eat at the restaurant there. They're going to buy cheap food at the convenience. And don't get me wrong, some foreigners do that too. But you get what I'm trying to say. More money is to be made and profited off of foreign guests. Not just for the stay at the hotel, but for the amenities and extra things they can do. Not to mention, a lot of places are justifying charging even more than the initial rate that you see by saying, oh, well, they're foreigners. So we have to charge more because they're going to eat more food or they need English assistance. Meanwhile, they're not providing you with more food. They're giving you less. They're not providing you with English assistance. They're hiring less people that can speak it or no one at all. They're not giving you a special menu. It's the same old outdated menu that for some reason has higher prices than the current menu, which makes no sense because prices have never gone down on food. Sounds to me like you made a special menu that is purposefully charging people more based on their inability to speak Japanese, but we can't talk about that. That's another topic, right? So anyway, keep your hands to yourself. If you're afraid to confront your own people, don't confront foreigners. If you're so bothered by the idea of somebody talking, screaming, etc. on the train, bus, spraying perfume, putting on makeup, please keep that same energy when I see Japanese women do that. But they don't. And you're stupidly believing that this is just an issue of foreigners breaking the rules. They just want to keep the peace and keep things Japanese. But that's not what they're doing. Because if that were the case, they would be getting on these Japanese people that do break the rules, and they do not. They ignore them when they do that. They might show a little frustration, but they don't say anything to them. They might move away from them. They might get another train car, but even that seldom happens. I've seen Japanese women do full face makeup on the train. I'm talking about students and career women. Nobody cares. See, I've seen Japanese women spray perfume. Nobody cares. See, it's only bad when you do it because you're not Japanese. I mean, let's keep it real and get it back onto the topic of the Spanish Twitch streamer. Was the behavior of that Japanese man also not rude and childish and toddler-like? Why do they have this mindset, or really it's a personality issue, where it's like they can't control their emotions? They can't control their hands. It's like dealing with a toddler. Like, you have to teach 2-year-olds that just because you don't get your way or you don't like someone or something, you can't grab their stuff and just throw it. You can't hit them. You can't scream, yell, whatever. But when a Japanese person does it, nobody associates it with childish, toddler-like behavior. Nobody calls them a Karen or a Ken. We justify it saying, yeah, this is Japan. Fight back for your country. Keep Japan Japanese. What sense does that make? Someone doing something that you do not like does not justify putting your hands on them, getting in their face, and confronting them. This is not a life or death situation. This man was not harming anyone's property. He wasn't harming the train. And even if he were to have been harming something physical, well, not something physical, but, some sort of, physical object, such as a train, that man doesn't own the train. That's why you call, in Japan, 119. Call for the police then. Alert the trainman. Get off the train and do it yourself if you must. Where do you think you get permission to now lay hands on people? Not to mention, isn't it kind of a contradiction? You're getting loud to tell somebody else that they're being loud. It's an oxymoron. And beyond just that, you're putting your hands on someone in hopes of stopping them from doing what they're doing, like you're their father. I don't know what universe you live in, but where I'm from at least, If a grown man puts their hands on another man, normally even if he didn't intend to fight, that typically causes a fight to erupt. Because it's one thing to get clowned and yelled at and talked to and schooled on what you should have been doing, and a whole other thing for someone to insult your manhood and lie their hands on you. And you might say, oh, that would show animal behavior of foreigners. You best believe. If somebody puts their hands on a Japanese person, you think he gonna sit back and just take it? I've seen them get into fights in public. Trust me. And again, for people that hate confrontation, they sure don't act like it when they're dealing with foreigners. It's only newsworthy when a non-Japanese person does it too. Because we all know, a Japanese person has never vandalized a shrine before. They've never eaten on a bus or train. They've never streamed on one. It's just crazy ass white and black people. It's those bad Chinese. You see what I mean? This is scary. Because again, we have video evidence and we're ignoring it because we're so biased. And the same thing that you're seeing with, the beauty standards. Japanese women are clearly photoshopping their pictures, clearly photoshopping their videos. I would know because I've used the same apps myself. I like using filters. I'm not faulting them for it. But the difference is I can't try to pretend like that's what I really look like in real life because I would get called out for it. But see, when they do it, they get to be on the front page and stuff like, oh, look at this young-looking Japanese woman. Like, oh, they're so naturally beautiful, and definitely this is how all Asian women look. Meanwhile, I'm like, have y'all not seen the clinics and the ads in Japan for all of this cosmetic work done? And y'all don't know how to tell when somebody has Botox? Because I can. Don't get me wrong. They do a much better, more subliminal job than Americans do. But the girls that y'all be bragging on, fillers, filters, body alterations, whatever you want to call it, breast implants, veneers, eyebrow lifts, double eyelid surgery, circle lenses. What you're looking at is contour. What you're looking at is a nose job. Everything that you're thinking that looks so good, so natural, they're so beautiful, it's fake. Which is fine if you like fake, but why are we going to praise this for being natural then? And then the comparison between that and American women or any other country's women when that's not even what they really look like. And again, when they do show women that really do look this way, always have on makeup, still always a filter, and once again, exceptional beauty. Again, remember what I said at the beginning, talking about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. That's exceptional beauty. Most of those girls have had plastic surgery and work done on their faces, Botox, etc. But the other difference is, even for the ones that have not or that have had very minimal work, it's still work, they're still wearing makeup, here goes the thing. Exceptional beauty. This is a small, biased sample of white women. Most white women do not look like a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. All cheerleaders are also not attractive either. But again, if this is all you're going to see across media is women that look like that, you're going to think most Americans are blonde, most Americans have blue eyes, most Americans are wearing a size 0 to 2. You see where I'm going with this? Likewise, if the only Asian women that are worthy of being cast in films and being chosen for K-pop and J-pop and J-drama, whatever shows and teams, what are you going to think? All Japanese women have pale skin. All of them have long, flowy, shiny, thick hair. All of them have big, beautiful eyes. Like, you see what I mean? They don't want to show you average-looking, basic, round-faced, square-faced, rectangular bodied. They don't want to show you these plain Jane looking girls, these ugly girls, these tan skin, fat, small, slanted eye. They don't want you to see those women. So they don't show them. And it makes you think most don't look this way. It's all a matter of advertising. They have whitewashed their media. They want their women to look exotic, to look beautiful. You're more willing, I won't say more willing, but you're more likely to see an average or ugly Japanese man being shown in advertisement, in an idol group, in modeling, whatever, than you are to see an average, ugly, basic-looking Japanese woman. Thus, you believe they all look this way. Same thing for porn. It's a fantasy for men. They're not really super fixated on what women think. And really, again, going into the fantasy thing, People want to see average ugly old Japanese man experiencing great sex with a hot Japanese girl. Nobody wants to see some ugly fat slop. And again, there's something for everyone out there. But you know what I mean. So again, I'm going to wrap this up, going on an hour and 30 minutes. All I want to say is this. People see what they want to see. You have the video right there for you. You have chosen to ignore the fact that this man decided to not mind his own business. This man decided to make a big deal out of nothing. Nobody's sitting and standing or waiting for a seat. Nobody was asking him to sit there. The dude is dressed like a cosplay. I'm sure 90% of people wouldn't even want to sit next to him anyway, because he looks like a damn weeb. But even for the ones that would, okay, he didn't say that they can't. I don't see anybody asking to sit inside of his seat. And even if somebody were to, the real question is, why do you all only feel bold to enforce the rules on foreigners, and in particular the priority seating rules? Because I've never seen a Japanese person tell another Japanese person to get up out of them seats. I'm just saying. There's no one there. He can sit there. He shouldn't be filming there. But it's not in your power to make him stop. So if you're really bothered by it, tell one of the trainmen, the conductors, or somebody. Get off the train and report it at the platform so that he can let somebody know on the train. Call the police then. Press the emergency stop button. There's a button to actually call the people on the train too, I think, somewhere in there. But you get what I'm trying to say. They have chosen to completely avoid all of those steps, ignore them in favor of, I want to confront you. I want to start some shit. Can we use our brains here and recognize we're being tricked? And can we stop trying to pretend like calling out Spain or calling out Africa or Jamaica or America or Canada or Australia or New Zealand is helping your country? You're only fighting amongst yourselves stupidly, because I've never seen a Japanese person specifically saying, you know what, these Spain people are doing this, let's specifically ban everyone from Spain. No, what is the argument being made? What is the argument? Ban all foreigners. Do you see what you're contributing to? And again, we're seeing slowly, we have the business visa changing. What do you think is going to be next on the list? You all are not using your brains. So, whatever. It's so irritating to see this. It's funny, but it's also sad. Because when I saw that video, I was like, huh? Based on reading the caption. And then I watched it and I'm like, but did we not watch the same video? Can you watch it and let me know what you all think inside the comment section? Are we not watching the same thing? Did you all not see what I saw? The man started it by confronting him. He aggravated him and, what do you call it? Not aggravated, but I guess that is the word to use. Progressed it, whatever you want to call it, made it worse by then getting in his personal space. Then he made it worse for the third time by trying to reach for either his hat, his face, something. And then, after he did all of that, then when you finally get a small, literal pushback, now you play victim. Now you act scared. I mean, come on. If that's not playing Karen, what is? You can't start a fight, and then when somebody doesn't even punch you back, just pushes you out of their way, now you're the victim. And you see these dumbass, easily persuaded, brainless, mindless Japanese people just chiming in and chanting and agreeing with this shit about banning us. And it's funny because, you're using our platform. You're using a platform made by foreigners, both YouTube and X. And it's funny because even TikTok is technically Chinese, who they also hate. It's make y'all own stuff then. If y'all hate foreigners so much, make y'all own platforms then. Stop using Google. Make y'all own search engine. See what I'm trying to say? There's so much hate for foreigners, but you rely on it, even for your convenience stores. So, whatever. And look, when y'all get old, y'all gonna need them too to take care of you, because y'all ain't got enough people, or even the people that they have, they're not willing to sign up to be nurse aides and whatnot. So it's just so crazy to me that we don't realize we're hurting ourselves. We're trying so hard to please them and kiss ass that we're actually hurting our own image. So I'm through. This is going to be forever for me to edit all of this stuff, this video and yesterday's video. But yeah, leave your 2 cents down below. Again, please click on that link, watch that video. You can literally do a search on X and look at other videos and clips and posts that are being made. And again, let me clarify what I said at the beginning of the video. I am not justifying or excusing the Spanish Twitch streamer's behavior. I'm saying that what he did not cause for the man to do all of that. Both of them are wrong in different ways. But the reality is the Japanese man is more so in the wrong, because regardless of what somebody's saying or doing, unless they are physically harming you or someone else around you, you do not have the right to put your hands on them. That's not the way that life works. As an adult, you should know better. He knew better. He would not have tried that with a Japanese man or a Japanese woman, but he felt bold to do so because the man was not Japanese. And he quickly got put back in his place. And again, Karen vibes. It reminds me of stuff that I see in the US all the time. Everybody loves to cry wolf and scream and, do whatever. Until somebody decides, you know what, I can play the same game. You're not going to put your hands on me. And then suddenly Karen feels threatened. Karen calls the police. You see how they play in your face? He knows that what he did was wrong. He knows he shouldn't have confronted him. He knows he shouldn't have yelled at him. He knows he shouldn't have gotten his personal space. He knows he shouldn't have attempted to grab his hat, put his hands on his face, whatever he was trying to do. And he knows that the story is being told in a distorted way. It's funny how even the biggest lawyers, journalists, etc. in Japan, even the ones that speak English, I don't see them trying to defend foreigners. They always sit back, take the quiet approach, don't want to be opinionated. But then if something unjust happens to them, they want you as foreigners to be their whistle dogs and, whatever you want to call it, their little lap dogs, and speak and defend them on their behalf. Interesting. You're doing their dirty work, both for helping them justify kicking foreigners out and for physically defending them too. So, physically and emotionally and culturally, whatever you want to call it. Again, we can acknowledge that guy. If somebody needed the seat, he should have gotten up, which I don't think anybody needed the seat. It was just an excuse for the guy to be racist. But if somebody did, sure, I agree with that. He shouldn't have been talking, shouldn't have been streaming, and the combination of those things just made it even worse. However, we are not going to pretend like that justifies somebody getting in your personal space, yelling at you, to putting their hands on you. That's not even remotely justifiable. That's stupid. If this were to be different races, if he were to be a black guy, if the Spanish guy were to be a black man in America and the Japanese guy were to be a white woman or a white man in America, we would all be laughing at this in favor of the black guy sitting in his seat streaming, because we would recognize, what a Karen, what a Ken, how stupid. You should have minded your own business. That's what them white people get. But then when a Japanese person does it, all of a sudden, now we're pretending like the Spanish guy is at fault for this. And again, don't get me wrong, fine. It's a domino reaction, chain reaction. If he was never sitting in the seat, if he was never streaming, that situation would have been unlikely to occur. But the reality is, this mindset of if you don't do anything bad, nothing bad happens to you is also stupid. When people are prejudiced, dislike you, hate foreigners, they don't care whether you're doing anything right or wrong. I can speak for myself. Just walking down the street in Japan, you'll come across people that'll just spit in your direction, huff and puff, and, suck their tongue, teeth, whatever, make little nazzing sound effects like that to show that they're angry at you because you're a foreigner and you're existing in their country. They'll walk by, tell you to die, say, oh, it's a lot of foreigners, I hate foreigners, go to hell, whatever. Say things like that to you, right? Too chicken and cowardly to typically say it to your face. They'll normally say it as you walk by, but sometimes they do say it to your face. I didn't do anything wrong, you're just racist. So let's also get rid of this myth of, well, if he never sat there, that wouldn't have happened. No, it would have, just probably not right then with that person. But he likely would have still experienced something else if he stayed in Japan long enough, and or if he could speak Japanese to understand what's going on around him. So, that's that. I can go on about this forever. Long story short, they need to learn to keep their hands to themselves to control their anger, which people don't normally talk about that, but the Japanese have some serious mental health issues, not just with suicide, but with anger. And that's mainly because they have a culture of you do not vent your frustrations to anyone, which I'll make a video on that topic, but they don't vent to their family, to their friends, to their date, to their girlfriend, to their wife, etc. Everything just stays to yourself. Complaining is not really a thing in Japan, which is why you'll seldom find a Japanese person, if not there's nobody like me, that makes content even complaining and talking about negative stuff in Japan. Because everything's about lying and being fake and phony and happy, including in your real personal life off camera. That's true life in Japan. So, I don't even know what the solution is at this point, because I feel like we've dug ourselves too deep of a grave and a hole, and there aren't enough of us like myself that are willing to speak up and talk about these things, because people prefer paychecks on YouTube. People don't give a shit about trying to give you real advice and teach you real stuff. It's much easier to make videos shaming and bashing and telling foreigners, don't do this, you're bad, you're wrong, which I'm not completely against that. I have topics like that too, but they will never address the hypocrisy and how Japanese people do these things too, and instead they just hyperfixate on the fact that foreigners break these rules. Foreigners are bad, foreigners are wrong, and they will completely refuse to acknowledge that actually more Japanese people do this than foreigners. Because they want subscribers, they want views, they want likes, they want comments, they want support, they want sponsorships, and I kind of get it, but I mean, I consider somebody that knows the truth and doesn't tell it to be a liar. I don't care what your reasoning is. If you're going to withhold right information, things that are helpful, fair information, if you're not going to try to help serve justice, that's what you are. You are a liar. So, just saying. I'm done. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And that's all for now. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. And I hope you watch another video. Again, I'll pin the video links down below for my last couple of videos, like if I can remember to do so, talking about the Karens in Japan and talking about the Kyoto students, and also the video showing this whole little altercation that took place. I'll share the Facebook link, but you could also search it on X, and also I'm sure you could just do a Google search or YouTube search and find other people's videos discussing this topic. But again, my takeaway is Japanese people do the same things that we do, way more, but it's only newsworthy and a problem when a foreigner does it. And also, they don't acknowledge that they do the same things. They have brainwashed their country's people into believing that this is just us that does this. And as I mentioned in my last video about Kyoto, which I suggest you watch that video because I go into more detail about this topic a little bit, they act as though Japan's news is like superior to China's, which is funny because it's like their news is the exact same. The difference is Chinese people know that they're being brainwashed and manipulated and given one-sided information, whereas the Japanese don't. They don't recognize just because you're only seeing foreigners break these rules does not mean that Japanese people don't do this. When that Twitter X post went viral of those white women sitting on that bus floor, people were acting like they've never seen Japanese people do the exact same thing. I've literally had to say excuse me to get off the train because Japanese people decide to not only sit on the floor, but they're literally blocking the doors. Eating, talking, drinking, playing games, making out, being drunk, vomiting. And again, we give them a pass. We make up all these excuses for them, but whatever. I'm done. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and I hope you watch another video.